Thank you so much for joining. I'll introduce myself. I'm Kumiko from HackerGal, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself a bit later on, but we're going to kick off this cyber leadership webinar. So we'll be starting off with some opening remarks. We'll followed by a panel discussion, and then there will be 10 minutes for an audience Q&A. As I said, please use the chat, please use the Q&A. We want to hear from you. To kick things off from the DMZ team, I'm going to pass the mic over to Naveed, and he will provide a welcoming message.
Thank you, Kumiko. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our Women in Cyber panel. I want to thank all of you for attending across the country on this Wednesday for this special event. So this event is a part of CanHack 2021 programming in partnership with HackerGal, and one of many exciting things we have planned here at the DMZ. For those that don't know, the DMZ is Ryerson University's business incubator for early stage tech startups. The DMZ provides high impact, high intensity, and high customized programs for the best and brightest founders in the world to validate, build, and scale their tech startups. To give a quick overview of CanHack 2021, CanHack is Canada's largest cybersecurity competition powered by RBC. Its mission is to engage and educate Canadian high school students in the field of cybersecurity through a fun and free web-based game competition called Pico CTF in partnership with Carnegie Mellon University. The competition is aimed at empowering Canadian high school youth in three ways: helping youth explore new careers in the tech sector, teaching students new skills with hands-on learning, and giving participants a wealth of free resources. And best of all, you don't need any computer skills to get involved. So without further ado, let's get started. I will hand it back to Lucy, who will introduce our host, HackerGal.
Thank you, Naveed. Hi, everyone. My name is Lucy, and I'm the founder and executive director at HackerGal. For those of you who may not know, HackerGal is a charitable organization with a mission to inspire girls across Canada to explore the endless possibilities in computer science. I'm very excited to kick off today's event on women in cyber leadership because this is one of the reasons why I founded HackerGal. I was one of the very few women in the room when I was working in technology myself, and it was very intimidating at times to speak up and to feel heard. This is why I'm so passionate about creating equitable space where girls can learn, be inspired, and ultimately increase diversity in technology. By bringing people together with different perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds, we have the opportunity to honor the strengths of all individuals in a meaningful way that leads to a better, safer, and more inclusive future.
Thanks, Lucy. I'll take the mic from you over here. So today, women represent only 11% of Canadian cybersecurity and network professionals. This webinar was created in collaboration with the DMZ and RBC to encourage young women to pursue careers in cyber. Welcome to a safe space to learn from the experiences of champions who are paving the way for equal opportunities. At its core, cybersecurity is about problem solving. People who thrive in cyber are critical thinkers and agile problem solvers. Through our programming with girls across Canada, we see every day how HackerGals are able to navigate challenges with resilience and grit and bring important perspectives to the table. We believe changing the face of cybersecurity starts in the education system, and that's why we support learners and educators like yourselves across the country. So today we are here to raise awareness about the important role that women play in cybersecurity and the need for more women in this sector. Our talented roster of panelists will be sharing their perspectives on how Canada can contribute to vigilantly tackling the barriers, both visible and invisible, that contribute to women's lower participation rate in cyber at all stages of the pipeline. The simple fact is that young women belong in the cybersecurity industry, and we want to make sure that today we say that loud and clear. As you listen, we invite you all to learn from the powerful experiences and voices of our panelists and to reflect on what role you can play in making a difference in the gender gap in cyber. Without any further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over and kick off our panel discussion by introducing our moderator. Madhuri Amtharanjan is a 24-year-old lifelong learner with a Bachelor's of Technology in Graphics Communications Management. She recently made the career pivot into, surprise, cybersecurity by completing 2 certificates, GCIH and GSEC, with a Rogers Cyber Secure Catalyst program at Ryerson University. Welcome, Madhuri. Thank you for putting on your mic. I'm going to pass the screen over to you to introduce our panelists today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kumiko. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm thrilled to be able to moderate this discussion, and let's kick things off. So first and foremost, I would like to introduce our panelists. We have three very prominent women with us today. I'll start with Heather Ricciuto. Heather leads IBM Security's academic outreach program and is a recognized expert on cyber talent shortage. Her passion lies in elevating cybersecurity skills, workforce diversity, and gender gap awareness. Heather, you can turn on your camera and say hi.
Hello, everyone.
Moving forward, our next panelist is Azeen Moyadini. Azeen is the Director of Cloud Identity and Access Management within Global Cybersecurity at RBC. In her role, Azeen leads the lead strategic alignment for identity access management in public cloud. She will be accountable for managing the direction and feature-driven roadmaps to deliver secure, reusable services. Azeen will directly support the journey to the cloud while ensuring that identity and access management controls and boundaries are in place to keep RBC secure. Azeen holds her Certified Information Systems Security Professional, which is also known as the CISSP designation, and is working towards obtaining her Certificate of Cloud Security Knowledge. Azeen, if you just want to say hi to our audience today.
Hi, everyone.
Perfect. And our last panelist for today is Francis Gotopo. Francis graduated as an electronic engineer and is currently is Partner Architects Engineering Director at Cisco Systems. Now, with more than 15 years of experience working with service providers and small to mid-sized customers in industries from finance to manufacturing in Canada and Latin America. Francis has been at Cisco for over 12 years now, holding different roles from systems engineer to now as a partner engineering director. Beyond being a systems engineer, Francis is an advocate for women and girls in tech empowerment. Co-founded and currently co-directed a cultural nonprofit, Santar Venezuela, and she treasures the family time with her husband and 2 daughters. So with now our panelists introduced, I just want everyone to maybe just give a little blurb about themselves and what their day-to-day jobs look like. And we can start with Azeen. Azeen, what does your day-to-day job look like?
Sure. So every day is different. I'd like to start off by saying, so kind of hard to talk about a typical day, but I essentially act as, some days I'd call it a negotiator, some days a translator, between our business, which is our cloud teams at RBC, and then these various cyber teams, so identity and all of the rest of the cyber teams, just to kind of make sure we're all on the same page and we're kind of all driving forward to the same strategy. And then I also spend a lot of time looking ahead and creating roadmaps of where we'd want to go in the next weeks, months, years in terms of identity and within cyber.
Awesome. And what do you think is the most rewarding and exciting part about your job?
I think I love the fact that it's different every day. So it is exciting. It's fast paced. Identity is cool because it touches everything. It touches every part of the bank. There's not any group that we don't work with. And then cloud is exciting because it's newer technology. It's not one of those aspects of security and tech that's been around for years. So it feels like we're all kind of learning together. So no one really has an advantage. And then just with COVID, and we've never been in this situation before, so security's been at the forefront. And it's been exciting just to be a part of that. We had to virtually get 80,000 people ready to work from home securely overnight, basically. So that was all fun. Maybe it wasn't fun during, but definitely fun afterwards.
Yeah, no, that's a big one. And I think that with everything that's going on in the world right now, we're all faced with problems that we never thought we'd have. And to your point about cloud security being a newer concept in the security world, since it's a newer concept, how did you get to be where you are in your career now?
So it's interesting because I was looking at the questions beforehand and it talked about what made me pursue a career in cyber. And I would almost say that I didn't. Cyber kind of found me, and then I continued pursuing a career in cyber, but my background is actually not in IT at all. If I look at what I went to school for, I have a Bachelor of Science in nutrition. So I came into the cyber world in a communications role and then just kind of moved around. And over the last 7 years, I've held various technical and non-technical roles, but cloud is new to me as well. I've actually only been working in it for, say, it's been 4 to 5 months. I moved from a different cyber role to this one. But I think back to what somebody said at the beginning is cyber is more just about people who can problem solve, critical thinking, and that you don't necessarily need hard and fast technical skills to get started.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Me, myself, I have a background in graphics. I made the career pivot just recently, actually. So I totally understand, that sometimes it seems a little bit more intimidating to get into security. And people think that, you need to be very technical. You need to have, X amount of IT experience. But to attest to your point, I think that a lot of people that are in cyber right now, that wasn't the plan.
No, definitely not.
Right. Now, moving to our next panelist, Francis, could you tell us a little bit about your day-to-day?
Hi, everybody. Sure. So, as you see, and it's different every day. As a leader, I lead a team of 10 solutions architects and system engineers, and we're part of a sales organization. So our mandate is go and design and put together our solutions to help customers like RBC and SN to solve the business problems that they have as the different customers. And my current role, I help drive my team, but not only do that, but we do that through our Cisco partners. So we help to enable the sellers and the engineers and the partners for them to go and also build those solutions to their customers. This is a new role for me since August, and it's a different view of the business and cybersecurity, and security is part of our solutions that is at the forefront of what we build and do. So it's kind of in every conversation that we have with our partners and our customers.
And now with this being a new position for you, have you found that there's anything in particular so far that you find the most rewarding about your job?
I think the most rewarding for me is seeing people grow in their roles, in their careers. In my previous role as also as a manager of serving customers and now serving partners, I've seen and helped people in my team pursue their passions. And if it's that meaning moving into a specific cybersecurity role or a different areas of Cisco or moving into a different cloud company, but that is very rewarding. It's also to see that the different possibilities that technology brings to you and see them evolve, I guess, in their careers. That's the most rewarding part.
Yeah, I think it's a really big thing that even when you think about it from like a way broader standpoint with all the technologies that we even have today, I mean, like 10 years ago, we probably wouldn't have ever imagined, right? So it probably is very rewarding to see your technologies grow and the people on your teams grow. And with that being said, could you tell us a little bit about your background? I know in your introduction it said that you were a electronics engineer, I believe. Let's hear a little bit about that.
Yes, my bachelor degree is in electronic engineer, and it was back home, and home is in Venezuela, so se habla español, speak Spanish, and we moved into Canada 9 years ago. So technology, having a background in engineering, it made it open many doors. It made it portable. And actually, I was working at Cisco in Venezuela, and it wasn't a transfer. I just started to throw my resume at Cisco Canada and open new opportunities and there are new conversations. and willing to, be adapt. And I think one of the things of being in cybersecurity learners, you have to be like a lifelong learner, willing to learn every day new things. And so I think that's what opened the door here, and working with the service providers, and then moving to a leadership role. And now I'm in the leadership role working with the partners. So that's a little bit of the journey.
That's wonderful. It's always to when I was speaking with Azine, it's always wonderful to see people from very diverse backgrounds come together, and we're so passionate about cybersecurity, and it's really awesome. Thanks, Frances. We'll move on to Heather. Let's hear a little bit about your day-to-day on the job.
Well, I think like most people who work in cybersecurity, no 2 days are really the same. So in my role as academic outreach leader, what I do is evangelize the need for more cybersecurity skills in the world, as well as for gender equity. And so it means I work with faculty and students at accredited educational institutions around the world, including here in Canada. And it also means I get involved in public speaking engagements like this one, and including speaking at conferences, and also volunteering at a number of security competitions like CanHack. And this is my first year getting involved with CanHack, but I am familiar with Pico CTF. IBM is a sponsor of Pico CTF, as well as some other cybersecurity competitions as well.
That's pretty awesome. Working with academic outreach, I'm certain that you probably meet plenty of different students with very diverse backgrounds who, their ears might have peaked when they heard cybersecurity. So could you tell us a little bit about if that's the most rewarding part of your career? Like what is it that rewards you the most?
Well, before I tell you what rewards me the most, let me tell you that one of the biggest challenges I have actually in my job is to dispel some of the myths that are out there about what it means to work in cybersecurity and what kind of skills are required to work in cybersecurity. And a lot of people of all ages, frankly, not just students, they think that everybody who works in cybersecurity is a hacker or a coder. And, we all know that's not actually true. And you don't necessarily have to have a computer science or engineering degree. Many folks who work in cybersecurity do, but many of us don't. I myself have a business degree as well as a degree in French. But I started working at IBM 2 weeks after graduating from university. So I have worked in tech my entire life. And so I, through my work, like I said, I aim to dispel some of the myths that are out there and help people understand what it does mean to work in cybersecurity, and help them understand that there is room for everyone. There is room for people of all different types of backgrounds. And when we talk about diversity and inclusion in tech, and most particularly, of course, in our case, in cybersecurity, we're not just looking at gender and race and the things that you kind of typically think about when you hear the word diversity. We also look at things like educational background. So now, getting back to your question about what's the most rewarding thing for me, honestly, is spending time with young girls in middle school and high school, and inspiring them to join the tech workforce, if not cybersecurity specifically, to explore opportunities in tech or in STEM as a whole. Because, obviously that's where my own passions lie, and we need people with diverse backgrounds, because that leads to greater innovation for the world.
I completely agree with that. I think that the diversity in backgrounds helps strengthen all skills in cybersecurity. It's something that's very much needed, and I think that having so many people with the same qualifications are only going to take you so far on one team, right?
Right.
Yeah, so with that being said, I have another question for you. As a woman in cybersecurity, what have you noticed about the gender balance in your experience and your foresight? Where do you see it going? What have you seen?
Well, where do I see it going? I mean, I hope it's going up. I hope that the representation of women in cybersecurity is going to change for the positive. We saw a statistic at the beginning of the talk that representation of women in cyber in Canada sits only at 11%. I can tell you, for several years, global reports indicated that female representation in cybersecurity sat around 11 or 10%. And more recent reports, however, at the global level indicate the average is somewhere between 20 and 24%, depending, what source you look at. Now, having said that, what's the next report going to say? I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball, but I hope it's going, I hope that the numbers will continue to go, or the percentage, will continue to increase thanks to the work of folks like all of you. And one of the things that I personally have done is started a program 4 years ago at IBM called Cyber Day for Girls. In fact, we held the very first Cyber Day for Girls right here at home in Canada at our IBM Canada headquarters in Markham. And the program today is still going strong, and I continue to lead that program today. And so that's the program that I actually was referring to, but didn't specifically mention when I said the thing I enjoy most is inspiring young girls to pursue careers or studies in STEM, if not specifically in cybersecurity. So I'm very fortunate to work for a company that enables me to do that type of work. Volunteering is in our DNA at IBM. We are very much encouraged to volunteer wherever our passions lie, frankly.
That's awesome. And, given with your experience and your volunteer experience, your job experience, what do you believe young women need to know in order to consider a job in cybersecurity? Like, if there was one piece of advice that you could give to every young woman out there who is even slightly considering cybersecurity, what would it be? What do you think that they need to know?
That they can do it, that they should not let anybody tell them that they can't. Don't let anybody get you down. If you, no matter what your passions are and what you think you want to pursue in the way of studies or, and eventually a career, don't let anybody tell you that you can't do what you want to do, because you can do anything.
That's awesome. I love that so much. I wish I heard that when I was a younger girl. I really do.
I meet so many young women who, tell me that their parents don't understand why they want to go into tech or into cybersecurity. In fact, I have one colleague at IBM who very much wanted to go into tech, but her parents discouraged her, and she started out her studies in political science. But in her first year, she took a cybersecurity course, foundational course, fell in love with it, and decided to switch majors and pursue her passion. So sometimes it just, and by the way, in that course, she had a professor who was very supportive and encouraged her. And it sometimes it takes only one supporter, right? One champion, one mentor to really inspire you. And, if you have that one person to lean on, then it can make all the difference.
Yeah, that's amazing, Heather. I'm sure that you are an inspiration to many young women out there. You are a very big inspiration to me. So I really do admire all the work that you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I have another question. However, I'm going to hand this over to Azine. Azine, now, what do you think your organization has done in order to support gender diversity and inclusion? I know that RBC has sponsored a large part of the Cybersecure Catalyst program. I was very fortunate in that I was able to be a part of the first cohort in the RBC Women's Stream. So I know that is one of the major efforts they've put into, bridging the gender gap. However, is there anything else that you know that that RBC has been contributing to?
Yeah, for sure. So besides the partnerships, like you mentioned, the Women in Cyber Stream at the Rogers Catalyst, the CanHack partnership that we have as well, and just we look inwards to the organization's hiring and recruitment practices to ensure that there is diversity with all the tech and leadership roles. And diversity, again, like Heather mentioned, is all kinds of diversity. So it's diverse backgrounds, gender, anything, just all sorts of diversity. And there's really no lack of opportunity. Like as a woman at RBC who came from not a cyber background, I now have all these certifications, I've taken courses, I've moved around in different roles. There's never been a lack of opportunity. And I've had really great female mentors. We have a lot of women in tech, like women in cyber type programs. But I've had a lot of great female and male mentors, a lot of just sponsorship from everyone. So it's been great. And
I think. So no, continue. Sorry,
I was going to say one more thing. I just wanted to comment on what Heather said is that I do think that the myth is that it's almost worse than it is. I do think the myth is, I even tell friends and family sometimes, oh, what do you do? I work in cyber. And they're like, oh, you must be a coder. You must be a programmer. I could not write a code if my life depended on it. And had I been forced into kind of, okay, so cybersecurity is programming or code writing, I probably would have never expressed an interest. And it's so much more than that. That's such a small piece of it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Having the 2 certifications myself, I filled my brain with so many technical concepts that along the way, I think that even I forgot that, cybersecurity is so much more than like seeing how many people are on the network, right? It's a lot more than just that. And I think that being a part of an organization or working for an organization that supports growth and learning, especially learning, I think it's really important to be a lifelong learner, and having an organization that supports that must be so brilliant.
Yeah,
now,
it's great.
I just want to add a little bit more to that, or I want to ask your opinion on what do you think the world would look like in the field of cybersecurity if there were just more women present? Like, say that 11% jumped up to a 50. What do you think the cyber world would look like?
I think we would do a lot better. If you think about it, with cyber, we're constantly trying to stay ahead of the threat actors and the cyber criminals, and they're really diverse. So for us to be more diverse, I think just having more analytical abilities, attention to detail, problem solving, critical thinking, a lot of the skill sets to the table will just make us much stronger. And in general, we need more people in cyber in general. As the number of the people on the internet increases, we will need more cyber professionals. So we definitely need more women as part of that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I remember telling an old colleague of mine who was in the IT department, I told him like, hey, like I'm doing my certificates in cyber. And he was just like, that's awesome, because there's such a shortage in people in general in cyber. So I think that one, having so many more people to strengthen everyone's cybersecurity forefront would be really good. And I think that the just the added diversity and like the added opinions, ideas, I think that it would go such a long way. And in addition, I'm asking more questions. What is something you think that young people need to know about cybersecurity? Like, what myths do you think need to be debunked, and what would your personal advice be to, say, a graduating high school class?
What Heather said is that they can do it for sure. I would just say give it a try. Like, again, if I were to talk to myself when I was graduating from high school and say, go work in cyber, I probably would have said no. And because I was under the same misconception that it's just going to be a highly technical programming, code writing type of world. And I never had an interest in that. But I would say just give it a shot because there's such diversity in the roles. You can almost find any type of role within cyber. Like we have HR people in cyber, we have finance people. Now that's moving outside of technology, but there's tons of different roles that are some technical, some not, but just outside of writing code. So I think it's just to stay open about it. Just stay open, give it a shot. It's a huge world and it's only getting bigger, which means diversity in roles will continue to happen.
Yeah, no, of course. Do you have any recommendations on learning resources or, how to go about? Because I think one of the biggest questions a lot of people, well, I think this has to do with everything in general. It's kind of like, how do I get started? What can I do that will prep me for my career? For a lot of students that are currently in high school, is there anything that they can do in order to, be prepared for when they take that first intro to cyber class? Do you have any recommendations?
Oh, this is a tough one because we didn't even have intro to cyber classes when I was in school.
Neither did we. Neither did
I mean, resources like CanHack, and through CanHack, you can get to people at RBC, HackerGal. I think just looking at all these types of resources and hoping to connect with other people, grow your network.
Yeah, no, of course. I think when you're in high school, growing your network kind of seems a little arbitrary. Well, at least when I was in high school, if someone told me to grow my network, I would be like, what on earth are you talking about? So I think that's something that definitely goes with you as you grow older and as you meet new people when you get to university.
For sure. And I think there's lots of opportunity now. I know we do this a lot with RBC, is go into high schools and even middle schools and do hackathons. And again, even as somebody working in cyber, when I first heard about a hackathon, I thought you were actually trying to hack into something. So I probably wouldn't have signed up for it thinking like, I don't know how to hack. But those types of opportunities are great. You'd meet a lot of people that way because I know I volunteered at a number of hackathons across the city, gone into schools, and people I've met in those scenarios that I still keep in touch with. So those are really good opportunities too. And I think they're offered at most schools. Or through the school, you can get to them.
Yeah. I think that another one that I was at least intimidated by, but now I'm kind of like, hey, these aren't too bad, are capture the flag events, which those are really good because there's so many moving parts to it. And when you join a team and you guys get together, like your expertise, although it may not be as technical, can help in so many different ways. So I think that for the students out there who are wondering, like, what can I do? Just look into capture the flag activities and other things like that. Don't be afraid to make friends. Don't be afraid. Okay. Sorry. I'm just reading from a list of questions. So now I'm like,
I noticed Heather added some resources.
I did.
Everyone, if you head over in the chat, if you're looking for, resources, Heather has graciously provided us with some resources where you can learn more about cybersecurity, and they will help you with your gateway into the industry. Thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
Francis, questions for you now. It's your turn. I'm picking on you. Let's see here. Francis, how did you get into cybersecurity, and what would you say helped you thrive in your security career?
I don't have any specific, I'm not in the specifics of cybersecurity, but I think it's part of the diversity that we believe that you can be part of it. And what helped me, I think I never imagined myself as being in a sales role or a pre-sales role. And sometimes we forget that if you're a good communicator, a good problem solver, and you care about solving the issues for your community, for providing a new service, and then just bringing those to life through technology, and then how to make it now more than ever secure, because now everything is digital. So how we don't compromise people and systems and communities. So making sure they had access to all the things that you put together through enablement in a secure and easy way. I think that when I thought I was able to articulate and by caring and that I love working with different people of different backgrounds, it's kind of what has helped me thrive in a career. And it's also like loving to have a different day and learn a new thing and meet new people. I think it's been great too. Like opportunities like this, I love that. It's always an opportunity to learn.
Yeah, I'm completely with you on that. Anytime I see an opportunity like this, just to have a conversation with other people who are on the same boat as me and to learn more about, their careers and how they've gone from point A to B, it's always very inspiring to me, and it helps me learn what I can do in order to progress in my career and in life. And it's really awesome. And another question for you is, you did mention that you had immigrated here 9 years ago. Besides that being, a major, I don't want to say hiccup, but a major, event in your career, how have you overcome any challenges in your career, if you've had any?
So the immigration, I think, is when I look back, it's good to have a good support network, and I guess and I was part of an amazing team, and how I did overcome it was difficult. I wasn't fluent on the English piece, so I remember that when I was and selling, you have to go and present. So my first presentation, I remember, I guess I probably practiced all night, all the words. And but I think what helped is when I came into the room and kind of I introduced and say, hey, if I miss any words, I'm just coming and you let me know, but I will get back to you. Just seeing the room say, hey, we come from somewhere. Most of us are immigrants. Most of us have an accent. Don't worry, we got you. That was good. So it's part of a community that you say is diverse. And having more women is what I thought was missing. And that actually was when I came here, is when I kind of started looking around. I'm like, okay, let's share our stories more. Let's share how great our community could be, and also support each other, the ones that are in the community, so we can help each other and keep elevating ourselves.
Yeah, that's really important in my opinion. Like it's a pretty big one. To your point about the language barrier, I think that's one thing that many people struggle with, and I think that should not limit anyone in them feeling like, they can't do something just because, the English isn't great or things like that. And I think that you completely owned it. And I think that you're absolutely killing it now. So when you look back on it, you're probably like, wow, that was such a big obstacle that I've overcome. So that's pretty awesome, if you ask me.
So, but it's like Heather said, like, it's just think that you will get there, that you might not be perfect today, but there's a possibility to get there, and that you can own it. And I think the other one that is good for cybersecurity, be curious. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to, we all don't know everything. And when you realize that, I think you take a lot of heavy weight from your past. It's like we're all learning, and it's good to be around great people that, you feel comfortable to ask questions and keep progressing.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome.
Madhuri, because Francis mentioned, not being afraid to ask questions, that's actually a really good segue into a question I see in the Q&A, which is, how do you overcome imposter syndrome, especially when you're around techie people that use terms that you're not conversant with? And my answer would be exactly what Francis just said. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because, once you realize that a very high percentage of people working in cybersecurity didn't start out in cybersecurity. Many of us started somewhere else. And in fact, many people will say they wound up in cybersecurity by accident or by luck or by chance. And when you realize that, then you realize everybody started somewhere. And while you might be in a room with experts, they weren't experts from day one. So don't be afraid to ask questions and be vulnerable. And when you're out of that meeting and you're back in your office or you're back at home, do some research, right? And because what has also been mentioned tonight is you really need to have a passion for continuous learning in this business. It's a big part of being successful in cybersecurity in particular, because cybersecurity, it's moving at such a fast pace, and in order to stay ahead of or try to stay one step ahead of the threat actors, you really do have to continuously learn new things.
I think that this is a perfect segue into the next session of our programming, which is the Q&A. So your question was about the imposter syndrome. And I actually have a little bit of that to add myself, because that's something that I think I still struggle with till today. I think that when I took my first step into cybersecurity, I attended a 6-month intense boot camp. It was super intense and it was very technical. To be honest, till this day, I have no idea with my qualifications how I got in, because first day of classes, I had no idea what anybody was talking about. And I just sort of quietly sat in the corner, and it didn't help that it was a class of 30 participants and there were only 2 women in the entire class. So, I didn't want to ask stupid questions. I was afraid. And even by the end of the 6 months, there were so many things I didn't know. And I almost felt embarrassed in front of the rest of my colleagues and my peers, because there were just so many things that I didn't know. But, as I learned more about imposter syndrome and how it affects you, I think that at some point I had to tell myself, you know what, you can't feel like poop about it. You got to learn, you got to ask the questions. And I think that the moment you stop being afraid to ask questions is the moment you just open a door to a whole new world of self-growth, when you are not afraid to ask the questions. So for anyone else who is struggling with imposter syndrome, I promise, just ask the questions. It gets better.
What I would add 2 things also. One is that if you have a question, it's very likely that someone else in the room has the same question and they too are afraid to ask it. And if you find the courage to speak up and ask the question, those other people are likely to come up to you afterwards and say, thank you for asking that. I was afraid to ask. And then secondly, when it comes to imposter syndrome, I think there seems to be this misconception that only women suffer from imposter syndrome. Guess what? Men do too. They perhaps just don't talk about it or admit it as much.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that that's a whole other thing in itself, admitting it, whether it be admitting it to yourself or admitting it to the room. Hey guys, I'm not well versed in this area. I'm going to have questions, or I'm going to take notes so that I can, go back to my office and read a whole essay about this. Right. So I think that it's never be afraid to ask questions is the moral of this story. Don't be afraid to ask questions. So
I think the other comment to that is that we should talk more about it. So I appreciate the question, because I think what also helps is when you realize, when you talk to other leaders that you admire or look to, and they openly share with you, hey, I suffered it, and I suffered it too. To the day, it's kind of hey, you look confident, you're up there, and you're well, yeah. And then people realize that it's not something that could be a barrier, but it's something you can overcome and see kind of new opportunities. And as you said, we just keep asking questions and come prepared. Make sure you prepare and back up those questions with preparation and learn after.
Yeah. If I could just add one thing. So I completely agree with everything everyone said, but one more reason, a great reason to ask questions is I find sometimes highly technical people sometimes over-explain things. And if you ask the question, it's probably a simpler concept, but they are over explaining it in technical terms that make sense to them. So if you just ask the question, they're able to break it down for you. And it's really not that complicated.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. A big theory or a big thing that exists in cybersecurity is that sometimes there tends to be a little bit of a communication gap between technical and non-technical persons. So that also adds to our topic earlier about having people with diverse backgrounds in cybersecurity who will be able to bridge that gap between technical and non-technical persons. Right. So I'm going to move on to the next question. We have a few here. We have a question that is, what was the most difficult challenge in cybersecurity that you had or are overcoming? I'm going to leave this question open-ended. If any of the panelists want to answer, you're more than welcome. You can put your hand up.
I can start. So I think the most challenging thing for me was just not having the years and years of IT background. That kind of going back to that imposter syndrome, I would walk into meeting rooms and be the only person who hasn't been in IT for years, sometimes be the youngest person, the only woman, and the only person with less experience. So it was just overwhelming, and I'm still overcoming it. It's still something that I struggle with sometimes, but I just kind of take a step back and think I'm here for a reason. I have an ability to learn, and you just always have to be learning, and you can catch up to those people. Experience in cyber isn't necessarily always an asset because it's changing so much that something you learned 10 years ago may not even be relevant today.
Right. No, I completely agree with that. We are running short on time, so I am going to rip through these questions as much as I can. To everyone in the audience, if we don't get to your question, please feel free to reach out at any point on LinkedIn to any of the panelists. I'm sure they would be delighted to answer your questions for you. But our next question is from an individual who asks, if I want to start now in cybersecurity, where should I exactly start if I have a master's of computer applications?
I'll jump in. I think that one of the best places to start actually has to do with building your network of contacts. And one of the greatest ways to build your network in cybersecurity is to join special interest groups. And if you're looking for one that's specifically for women, I would highly recommend WICIS, Women in Cybersecurity, or WICIS.org. We have an affiliate right here in Ontario, and actually I can put the link to that in the chat. But that's the first thing that comes to my mind in response to that question. Build your network. Get to know people who work in the industry. Ask as many questions as you possibly can. In order to help you get a sense of where you might fit, even perhaps before you start learning.
Yeah, no,
I agree with that. And no, I only said that now in COVID, the other ways to build your network is also go on LinkedIn and see like who is you see titles, cybersecurity if you're curious, introduce yourself. And sometimes some of us are willing to, dedicate some time and answer questions. So that is another way to connect and find community through LinkedIn or other social media for people from communities that have meetups or community of interest.
So I'm going to squeeze one last question in for today. And this is actually a question I have myself, but the question is it true that there is a glass ceiling for women into cybersecurity? If so, have any of you experienced it? And I think that this is a totally valid question. I think that a lot of people say it's maybe tacky to speak about things like this, but I think that it's a totally valid question. And, if anybody has any experience or can add much to it, please do.
I don't think there is.
I don't think there is. And I was reading some statistics to prepare for this panel, and it actually said the contrary, that it seems like women are reaching higher levels and faster than some men. And I don't know, we also have some good soft skills that allows an EQ and that allows us to go up to those levels that get us pretty competitive and qualify for those positions. So that's what the statistics said, but in myself, I don't think I haven't experienced that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there is either. Like right now, when I look, my next two senior executives are both female, and I've never experienced any lack of opportunity or anything. So I really don't think there is either.
And Cisco as well, the leader of actually all the cybersecurity engineers themselves. Shelly's a great leader, so it's a female. And as of business leaders, we also both presidents of Cisco Canada being women. So I don't see that.
Awesome. So we're debunking more myths here. I love it. Now, with that being said, I am actually going to hand it over back to our hosts to wrap up our event for tonight.
Thank you so much, Missouri. It was so lovely to have you moderate that conversation. Heather, Azine, Francis, thank you so much for sharing your time and your expertise. For the audience, so much for joining. It was so powerful to hear you talk about imposter syndrome, the importance of curiosity, some really practical career advice. I love the idea that everyone's talking about that growth mindset. And I think it's so important that it's not something that you're born with. To know this about cybersecurity when things get tough, it's always possible to learn, to be curious, to find mentors, to ask those questions, to do the work, and you can get there, and you are all living proof of that. So thank you so much for sharing that knowledge with us today. I'm going to pass the mic over to Naveed, who will share some closing remarks and a reminder about the next event coming up on November 21st. So thank you again, Missouri, Francis, Azine, and Heather. Such a pleasure.
Thanks, Kimiko. And, echoing Kimiko, thank you, Azine, Heather, and Francis, and, our moderator, Madhuri, for an amazing evening. I don't know where the time has flown. And thank you to all of you who've, attended across the country. And also a bigger thank you to Hacker Gal, not only for today, but their dedication to inspire girls across the country. Without even this event and a lot of the things that occur wouldn't be possible without them. So we hope you enjoyed our panel discussion today and are starting to think about the careers in tech and in cybersecurity. CanHack is a great first step to explore cybersecurity in a fun and gamified way. And, you also have the opportunity to compete in prizes. To students in the audience that are interested, please have your teacher sign up as a supervisor and, visit the CanHack website for more information. It'll be in the chat bar just shortly. For those of you who've been a part of our previous workshops, our workshops will resume next Wednesday with reverse engineering at 5 p.m. We'll be following up with details on the competition in an email to everyone. Again, thanks everyone and have a wonderful evening. Talk to you soon.